Hey, how's it going? I hope you're doing well. We've got some more details about the Esports World Cup. Taking a step back, if you're not familiar with what that is, in years past, we used to watch this tournament called Gamers 8, which was based in Riyadh, Saudi Arabia, where the best of the best would go out and they would perform in what we deemed basically as crew battles, where your roster of three would play in 1v1s, 2v2s, and 3v3s within a single series to go on and win. Most recently, they did last year. V1 ended up winning with Daniel, Beast Mode, and Calm. Calm basically was like, it's a free walk in the park. I get a bunch of money to do nothing. Had like a $2 million prize pool. Life was crazy. This year, that's changed pretty significantly. Some have made that discussion in regards to the fact that the former production team, EFG, or ESL Faceit Group, is no longer also operating the RLCS, and maybe this is their way of kind of getting back at losing that partnership. But what was a $250,000 prize pool, which is a massive cut from $2 million, has been bumped back up to $500,000. The other thing is they used to do this with Gamers Without Borders for charity, and on top of that, there was qualifiers for teams to make it into this event. And that doesn't seem to be the case. Right now, we are seeing only 16 teams that have been invited that will compete, and we don't think, from what it sounds like from social media, that there is going to be a way to play in. Today, we're going to discuss what those teams are, how they got there, the 16, and kind of our feelings on it. And then the outside of it, some of the conversations from high-level coaches and people like Ferra and their opinions on it. First things we're starting with are the invited teams, and these are pretty straightforward based upon the current active standings, outside of some, which is kind of weird in its own right. At least in North America and Europe, the representation are your top three current teams. Many would argue, based upon power rankings, that it is G2, Gen.G, and Space Station for EU, Mates, Vitality, and BDS. K Corp not to be found because of their open qualifier fiasco. They're not part of this conversation. For Falcons, pretty straightforward between Falcons and Twisted Minds, and the conversation around Twisted Minds with Naupo and all of that becoming a thing. Interesting choices of basically taking the 6 best players in the region, no matter the circumstances, to compete. Over in OC, you got Power and Chiefs. Many would consider as pioneers, as they are going to the World Championship. Curious on how that selection process happened. South America, I think you can make a conversation for the 2nd seed team. I would just look at who made the World Championship and go from there. And then for APAC and SSA, you obviously know your 1 and your 2s. And then outside of that, they're finding endemic talent that is close to bring in with across the pond and Nikasi Ballers. I don't know who that is, if I'm being completely honest, because most times from SSA, it was either Limitless or the Mobula team that caused a bunch of turmoil. So those are your 16 teams that are going to be competing at the event. $500,000 prize pool. Format wise, it looks like a pretty straightforward 3v3. They've also been doing community cups for I think like 12K over various regions that are being casted by Rome, Corelli, and Herc, I'm pretty sure. And I don't think those work as I don't think those apply as qualifiers. I don't think they have anything to do. I think they're just completely separate second party, third party tournaments, although they're put on by the same people, so they're not really third party. But they're just an additional way for teams that aren't making this event to make money, I guess. I don't know. It's kind of a weird situation that they don't have any teams feeding into this qualifier process. Alongside that, then, we do have some details coming over from Ferra, where he talks about how he's disappointed to not even get a chance to show improvement and qualify to one of the biggest events of the year. Which, as part as a devil's advocate, the whole purpose of competition is exclusivity in the big events. You are the best performing teams at this time. You need to put up or shut up. And because of their own faltering, they are not invited to that and they miss out. And it's a domino effect, which is very scary. You know, he talks about the overarching kind of hierarchy of this season based upon the consistency and the formats and the way things have applied. It feels like a step back. It hurts the ecosystem. You know, for organizations, it's really complicated. You even saw EXO on Shift Summer League talk about how the format and things are not enticing for teams that do not have organizations or jobs. It's tough to sustain. So when the biggest off-season LAN and one of the few LANs happening this season doesn't have open qualifier, which is 100% in the ideology of Epic. Epic always wants there to be an opportunity to play in, but this event isn't endorsed by Epic. And the way I think about this, and I've talked about this as well on social media, is my hope is that moving forward, that Epic realizes it is not a tournament organizer. Epic is a game developer that makes good games that people like to play, or they've purchased them under their IP. Rocket League being one of them. And if they enable third-party organizers, whether it be myself and other community figures, Blast, EFG, WePlay, whoever, to make a tournament without limitation, those can live and breathe for what they are. And then it is up to the discretion of the tournament organizer to decide what that is. So in this case, if this is EFG's decision to not do open qualifiers due to costs involved, due to flights, travel, prize pooling, whatever it may be, because it's like a 2-month-long event, then that's their choice, and their qualification process, while it can be scrutinized, the reality is they want to pick the best of the best in this case, and that's what they're going with. So my hope is that in the future, as a team, there is going to be plenty of open qualifier options, and each tournament organizer determines what the format is, how many players, teams, who gets invited, who doesn't. Is it open qualifier? Is it only invite? And then we have an ecosystem that is, hey, we have RLCS, we have league play format through Shift. You have this Beyond the Summit type tournament from somebody else, hopefully me. And then that kind of development process goes, well, pick and choose which one you want to do. There's opportunities. And if you don't want to do it, that's your off season, take the break. And if you do, cool, play everything. And that becomes a more, which is very similar to how Valve does it with Counter-Strike. They basically are hands off. They provide some guidelines. They make sure stuff runs smooth. Other than that, it is up to the tournament organizers to make things the way that they are, based upon budgets, sustainability, and stuff. And it makes that pressure a lot less on Epic. Epic only has to focus on then make a good game, make it fun, make it entertaining, make sure people want to play it. We'll provide some marketing opportunities, but other than that, it's on you guys. And we saw that. Epic came in. They said Blast is our new 4-year partner for the RLCS. They're in charge of marketing. They're in charge of the way that this is processed. And they've made some mistakes, and it's not perfect. Hopefully next season is better, which based upon the information I've gotten, it should be. But they realize, hey, we need to hire back Lucas because his social media game is way better than the other one was. Hey, we need to bring in some consultants to help us with formatting. Hey, we need to bring in some people that are endemic to the space to help us. And then as that develops, hopefully it creates a better system for all of us. But where Ferra is talking about is it is unfortunate that a season or a tournament that we've basically come accustomed to is making such a drastic change, both in prize pool, both in qualification processes, the way that they're going about it. And he talks about that. It's questionable. There's a lot of things that are going on that are different that, we're kind of backwards in the way that we've approached things. It's only one of the only lands that we're going to have this year. And based upon the results that have happened 4 months prior, to set a game and the event where the performance isn't continue to be volatile, which is true. Rocket League is a very tough game. Everybody strives to have consistency. It's not easy. He talks more consistency around the formats of the big events throughout the year, especially if there's so few of them, is very much needed, which at the same time, RL Esports went with a consistent format. It is the exact same throughout every single major, every single regional. The only time it differs is the World Championship, where they add a weighted seed in their format towards the tail end to make sure that the best teams are basically given more chances in moving forward. I will agree that the details, even from my perspective as someone who's not directly involved and has contacts there, have been pretty vague. It's very difficult to find out information specifically about what is the process to go to Esports World Championship or the Esports World Cup. How do we get there? Where are the specifics? Which is problematic. When you have that big of a project, that stuff and that communication is absolutely crucial, especially for the ones that are directly involved, so they can plan and prepare and move forward. And esports doesn't always need to be last minute like it always is. So Ferra talks about, hey, sorry to the fans and stuff. This is my opinion. And I am glad that you're starting to see more players, casters, so on, be more direct and more vocal about the problems and the frustrations they've had. It holds people accountable. It gets people to notice. It is not old man staring, yelling at clouds type mentality. Like, people do pay attention to this stuff, especially when it is the weight of a world champion coach, a person who's with one of the biggest organizations. Like, it makes a big difference. It holds that accountability very highly. So unfortunately for them, we're all going to have to wait and see until Dallas. At the same time of that, there is nothing that I feel bad about in regards, because they could be playing in Shift. All of these teams that are French, BDS, Gentlemates, K Corp, so on and so forth, could be playing in Shift Summer League. They could be playing in something. So I can't say, hey, we feel bad that you won't see us until Dallas, when you could literally be playing in tournaments every Tuesday and getting reps in. So I don't know. I go back and forth on it. I understand the business behind things. People wanting to get paid appearance fees to show up because their likeness and their branding brings in viewership. But at the same time, if you don't play in these tournaments and that likeness and that branding and that viewership isn't there, those people running those events, out of the good grace of their heart, because it is volunteer and if they're running it at a loss, those tournaments are going to die out, and then you will have literally nothing to play in. It takes a village. Everybody needs to be active in it. And until the limitations where they can start turning a real profit based upon the sales and stuff that they have to run that, those appearance fees aren't going to happen. What people are expecting to have happen can't happen in Rocket League, let alone any esports right now, because while people are invested, fans want to do stuff, people aren't spending money. And rightfully so. The economy's in a pretty weird place. So esports has seen like 20,000 layoffs in the last 18, 20 months. It's chaos. So to basically say, hey, we should be paid to go to these, the prize pool is your payment. And if your organization can't budget accordingly to pay your players, then they need to identify what is wrong with them as a organization, as a business. They need to find ways to generate revenue. It is not on the tournament organizer to provide anything outside of a prize pool. My personal opinion, as someone who has organized tournaments, they already do so much, they already spend so much money, and the reason why they can go and garner more is because of your involvement, sure, but at the same time, without them, you don't have a tournament to play in. Yeah, gonna be a pretty interesting year for esports as we continue. I assume things will start to heal and get a little bit better over the next year or two. But as of right now, everybody's just kind of going through that refinement process together. Either way, any questions, comments, concerns, happy to have discussions, whether it be on the live streams or down in the comments below. Hit me up with what you got while you're down there. Like, subscribe, notifications. Helps me out greatly. And we'll see you in the next one. Peace.